Imagine you give birth to nothing. You haven't been pregnant, yet one day you wake up in agonizing pain, lying in blood-covered bedsheets, feeling like you just gave birth. You rush to the hospital and the doctor confirms what everyone thought to be impossible. You gave birth last night. But if that is true, where is the baby? And if there is none, then what is it exactly that you gave birth to? Exactly this happens to Natalie, the main character in the movie Surrogate. Just days after she attempted to rescue a collapsed woman in front of a petrol station, she started having pregnancy symptoms. The woman she tried to rescue was Margaret, a seemingly mad woman who tried to get medical help at the medical center in which Natalie had the final shift. Margaret pounded at the window trying to draw the attention to her, but Natalie, just about to close down the center, evaded the request. Minutes later, she comes across the same woman again, but this time next to the petrol station. It is not quite certain if Natalie could see what we can, but from our perspective, Margaret has ingested a large amount of chemicals just moments ago. As she collapses and goes into cardiac arrest, Natalie rushes over, cleans her mouth, and goes straight for a CPR. At first, this scene grossed me out because it's quite gross, and I wondered if it is a good idea to go for a full CPR procedure when the victim in front of you just threw up, plus had ingested potentially poisonous liquids before. After some research, it is clear that, yeah, acidic pieces of that person's last meal stuck between their teeth is no reason not to attempt CPR, nor are any poisonous residues left in the person's mouth. Take note. God bless emergency teams. Clearly, the best possible item to have in this situation would be a CPR mouthpiece. Something Natalie has not, but improvises with a plastic bag to minimize the contact with the person in need. This is legit. This is how it's done in real life, my friends. Despite her immediate intervention, though, she fails to rescue her. She arrives home, devastated and tired, goes for a well-deserved shower, and eventually goes to sleep. The next day is a normal day, apart from strange stomach rumbling and the occasional attack of nausea. Nothing out of the ordinary, considering that the person she performed CPR the night before on had ingested harmful substances before. After the second night of the incident, though, our character wakes up in blood-covered bedsheets looking like she had been targeted by Don Corleone. No doubt a distressing situation to wake up to, and as we all know, things become even worse. Everything mentioned in the intro is what follows: the hospital visit, diagnosis of pregnancy, given birth, etc. Just one small detail is added: child support. If child support were the main villain in this movie, I would probably not attempt to beat it. That seems impossible. But luckily, what we are about to encounter is much less scary than an overpaid bureaucrat trying to steal other people's children while standing on moral high grounds. And this is where the nightmare begins. Once Natalie comes home, obviously in complete distress, things start to take a dark turn. On the same day, specifically at night when all else is quiet down, she hears odd sounds coming from empty rooms throughout her house. She hears flowing water, a baby screaming, and other sounds related to children bearing. And that is kind of the issue here. According to experts and her physical evaluation at the hospital, she just gave birth. That's shocking, obviously, because that doesn't make any sense. But on top of that, she also woke up covered in blood, endured the exact same pain when being pregnant and giving birth, and has witnessed someone die just inches away from her 48 hours ago. No doubt what she's going through is extremely stressful. Hallucinations after episodes of acute stress is very common, so considering anything paranormal at this stage is rather unlikely. Stress-induced psychosis is much more common than, say, being haunted by an evil spirit that popped out of your vag 24 hours after a CPR session, right? And that is the problem. Just like in Smile 2022, everything is in alignment with some sort of logic. Everything can be explained by reason. In fact, even the birth symptoms can be explained. The doctor at the hospital said that women, only by the power of their own minds, can exhibit signs of pregnancy without being pregnant. Now, they can't have a baby magically appear in their womb, obviously, but the physical symptoms, including milk production and the swelling of the belly, are possible. This is called pseudocyesis. It is a real thing. It's also called fake pregnancy. However, what differentiates Natalie from other women with those symptoms is the fact that most women experiencing pseudocyesis have often extreme desires to become pregnant, and therefore seem to trigger physical reactions with the power of their mind only. The first red flag that could indicate, though, that something less rational is going on is when Natalie finds her daughter Rose pounding her head against the wall during nighttime. Sure, it is nothing extraordinary for kids to engage in odd behaviors in prospect of a math exam the next day, but this isn't the only thing that happens. The next day, Rose climbs into her mother's bed and explains how the girl in her room is pinching her over and over again. Her mother doesn't think much of it and claims that it was just a dream. Now, with all past circumstances, I would pay a little more attention to that. Sure, if this is a reoccurring theme and happened before, then her reaction might be appropriate. We don't know any of that, but if Rose never mentioned anything similar before, it should certainly ring the bells. At the very least, she should have asked her daughter where she got pinched, because if she did get pinched, there must be marks on her body, right? Well, the next day when child support comes, it is too late. As Rose shares the same story with her, she witnesses the bruises on her arm. After close inspection, it becomes clear that she got bruises all over her body, even on her back. Now, I'm saying this specifically because technically she could have bruised herself, right? Not that that would make any sense, but it is technically possible. However, pinching yourself on your back is not quite as possible depending where exactly you got the bruise on, right? If self-harm can be ruled out and Natalie was the only other person that could have caused those injuries, then it will become clear that there is more to it than what meets the eye. So at this stage, it is difficult to figure out what is going on without taking the leap of faith. If I were Natalie though, I would be seriously interested in that woman that I had rescued back at the petrol station. Everything that happened started right there. Whoever that was, it seems like she holds a missing piece to the story. At this point though, Natalie still doesn't think that far and just thinks of everything as strange phenomena. However, everything that had happened, although possible to some extent, from a rational perspective, are rather alarming coincidences considering they all started to happen at the same time. Having watched enough movies involving demonic babies and kids haunting people, having given birth to what seemed like nothing would freak me out. And it doesn't even stop here. The next one who bites the dust is the dog, who, just like Margot, was killed by ingesting chemicals. Rosie is being pushed down the stairs as well in front of her mother, and the strange discoloration on Natalie's nails continues to grow as well. Truthfully though, I am not sure what this signifies, so if anyone has an idea, let me know. The probably most enlightening part of this movie though happens when Natalie and Rose go for a day in the park. Not that that makes sense considering all that is going on. Frankly, if I were Natalie, I would spend every waking hour trying to figure out why these things keep happening. I mean, she hasn't done much about it other than just lightly touched on things with her mom and brother, but she hasn't sat down and mapped it all out. If she did, she would realize that all of this can't be just a mere coincidence. I mean, knowing everything that had happened so far, you would at least send your daughter away. Nothing had happened outside of this house as of now, which indicates that whatever it is that is occurring, it seems to be bound to this place. Which is not quite true, as we will get to know in just a bit, but the logic behind it is the important point here. While still in the park, a girl named Ava appears and starts talking with an imaginary dog in front of Natalie with the name tag Indy. The family's dog that just passed away had the exact same name, showing that this girl can see and communicate with spirits. Thinking it's just a tasteless joke though, Natalie doesn't pay much attention to it until Rosie comes back, causing Ava to freak out. Now, as Ava's dad joins the party and hands over a business card claiming that his daughter and he can help, Natalie remains skeptical, which shows just how much of a rational person she is, and that how she refuses to believe anything outside of norms and social conventions will lead to a stretched out pathway to the solution, which is kind of similar to the situation in the movie Smile. Only after her mom becomes the next victim, on the next day, Natalie decides to call them in. They set up a bunch of giant mirrors, turn their back to Ava, and have her figure out what the hell is going on. As the spirit appears, the girl can figure out two important things. First, the spirit's name is a girl named Lisa, and secondly, she is in a dark place. Whatever that means, it's pretty vague, but knowing the name is pretty revealing. Now, all goes according to plan until it doesn't, and the people that have started an SME in exorcism get so scared they storm out and leave back Natalie even more confused than before. Thanks for that. Now, she does the only right move though. She looks for missing children named Lisa and finds information on a Lisa Baylor that had gone missing about 6 months ago near the same place where she had performed the CPR on Margot. She finally reaches out to the hospital into which Margot was brought to and figures that she is currently waiting to be incinerated. She's allowed to check on her body and finds that she too had discolorations on her nails. Furthermore, it is revealed that Margot too had a strange birth during which no baby nor a stillborn was brought into this world, confirming that whatever had happened to Natalie, it did happen to Margot before. Meaning, Lisa seems to nest herself into women, has them give quasi-birth to her, and then haunts them and kills everyone in their vicinity. So far, it was her mother and the dog, and the next victims in line would likely be Rosie and Natalie's brother. Based on that logic, it may not be the case that the house is haunted, but Natalie herself. Meaning, the easiest way to temporarily beat Lisa for now would be to keep Natalie isolated for the time being. It also seems like Lisa is a needy, almost narcissistic child that would do anything, even commit murder to get what she wants. A caretaker that only cares for her. How do you beat the narcissist? Well, you run away as fast as you can. But if the narcissist is a spirit that is attached to you, that probably won't work out. So we gotta come up with a better solution. For now, however, Natalie decides to pay Margot's house a visit, hoping to find traces of Lisa, which is probably the best move you can do at this point. She enters a chaotic house, finds multiple traces of her inside, and is eventually surprised by the child support lady that had been following her around. Luckily, yet strangely, Lisa kills her in a rather comical way. She holds onto an electrical wire and touches her at the same time. One problem less, I guess? Now, because of that, Natalie rushes out and is lured underneath the house where she finds Lisa's carcass stashed away, proving that she was killed. The two questions that instantly pop up though: why was she killed, and did she become a vengeful spirit because of that, or is there more to that? Whatever the truth, you don't just hop back into your car and drive away like Natalie does. In fact, she even calls the cops and points them to Margot's house. This in itself might be the right thing to do considering the legal implications, but having called the cops, even anonymously, they will easily find out who you are. They could call you in for questions anytime, and no doubt they will do that since you were the last person who saw that lady before she died. Lisa's body underneath the house though has nothing to do with any of that. She has been missing for over 6 months. I doubt that anybody really cares anymore. She would have done better to take out her skeleton and burn it to crisps. You don't just take any chances here, do you? I would have lit up those bones quicker than you can mention Winchester. Thinking though that everything is over now, she drives back home, gets back to her lovely daughter, has her showered, and receives a distressing call from Lisa's actual mother. Now, there was a quick scene before that I skipped where Natalie paid her a visit. It wasn't much of significance until now. So that woman reveals now that 6 months ago Lisa had drowned her own 2-year-old brother. Her mother then put her into the trunk of her car, drove her all over to the town of Borden, where Margot lived and where Natalie worked, stabbed her in a forest, but apparently couldn't quite kill her. Meaning, essentially, Lisa isn't your everyday vengeful spirit, but rather a narcissist who had been killed as a consequence of her narcissism, and then continued being a narcissist just now as an evil spirit. Because why not? Now, hearing all of that, Natalie runs back to the bathroom and finds Rosie half dead in the bathtub. She again performs a CPR, but this time with success. She calls in her brother to pick up Rosie, planning to keep them away from her from here on out. Something that she could have done much earlier, as we had mentioned at the beginning. However, looking at the state of her house months later, it looks an awful lot like Margot's house before she decided to off herself. This, at least to me, shows that it's only a matter of time until Natalie gives up and becomes the latest victim before Lisa finds a new host and becomes the new fake daughter of someone else. The question though that remains, could this have been prevented in any shape or form? Well, clearly there were multiple occasions where Natalie could have found out what was going on before everything got out of hand. I wonder if burning the skeleton of Lisa could have killed her spirit. It's also unclear to me how Lisa, if attached to Natalie, didn't attack her own mother that actually killed her when she was at her own house. So despite the film being very well made, there are a lot of unanswered questions that I wish would have been cleared up as the movie came to an end. But perhaps I missed something, so if you know anything more than I do, let me know in the comments. With that, thank you so much for watching, and I catch you again next week. Peace out.